Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
Hi, I'm David Sainz. I did all these different builds here. The one that I was really focusing on this year was Doctor Doom. Got the idea, honestly, probably about 3 months back, just from reading a comic. He's one of my favorite comic villains, and I really wanted to try to capture, just his imposing presence with the build. Honestly, a lot of it was how do I word it? A lot of it was just starting with different elements of his armor. Like, I started with his kneecaps and then just kind of started to build out from that. Tried to capture like that, typical like medieval armor styling to it. A lot of it was pretty challenging at first, and I'm surprised he's actually still standing because there's only like on his ankles 2 studs that are connecting. So, and then the other thing that I found like really challenging that required a bit of work with him was his mask. That's actually like the third version of it, trying to get like an actual like shape, face shape to it. And there were a bunch of different techniques I had to come up with to get that curvature going using those slopes, but I was pretty pleased with it at the end. My wife actually did the tunic and the cape because I can't sew, and I had thought about doing a brick-built cloak and tunic, but then I figured that would be way too much weight, so we decided to go with fabric instead. But I think it balances out really well because then you get the solid like look from the armor, and then the fabric has a good contrast to it.
Yeah, those silver chrome type elements work so well for that armor effect.
Oh yeah, and I had to hunt down quite a few of those. It was a bit of a chunk of change, but I think it worked out well because I thought about doing it in the regular, light bluish gray, but I didn't like it nearly as much. So I'm pleased with how he turned out. So.
What is the kind of internal structure of the limbs and kind of the body like to sort of keep that all up? Because you said it's just a couple studs connected.
So the ankles are just like a few studs that are connected to the foot. But as far as the limbs, a lot of that is snot bricks. So where you can get like the studs on the side and just arranging them in different combinations to get the desired look. Normally I would be like, sure, let me take one of the limbs off, but he would fall apart if I did. Fortunately I was able to use the Studio Designer app to test out a few different options with the arms and legs before actually like throwing them together. But then once I got the limbs done, it was like, okay, how do we connect all these? So there's a mess of Technic in the middle to get his arms in those positions, and then use some ball socket joints to angle his legs out. Use some of these like hinge components so I could angle the arm, and then a lot of it is just using tons of brackets and tiles just to angle it. And then this particular arm is just connected by one single joint, and then resting on some tiles that just support it in the angle that it was at. So, actually, let me pull the head off too. We can get that. Better look at him there. So but the face, there's a bit, we can actually pull most of him off. There goes his jaw. But there's the internal structure of the.
That's not scary at all with his eyes just popping out.
Right? But then that's the internal look on the mask there. So it's crazy because a lot of the parts are only connected by a few studs there. I'm gonna just grab this real quick. But in the end, it ended up giving the look that I was looking for, because I really wanted to get that kind of like glowering expression from him. My first few takes didn't work out so well, but I really like how this turned out, especially where you get that continued curvature from the slope. So, yeah. But we'll connect him back here. There we go.
Perfect.
So,
thank you. Fantastic looking character and scene you've created there. Then sticking with the superhero genre, you've got Deadpool and Wolverine over here.
Yep. Yeah, those guys I did just shortly before the movie launched, and started with Wolverine because my son is actually named after the character, and was like, cool, because they had launched the buildable figure as an official Lego set, and I was kind of thinking he looked a little wonky, so I wanted to do my own like take on it. So he actually started with I started with the cowl on him, trying to capture the look of him from the old 90s comics, and then just started building out his torso and whatnot. Let me grab him actually, because but with him, a lot of it was using these 1x1 bricks with the studs on all sides to connect just various stacks of plates and slopes together. And now he's not wanting to hold together.
There we go.
Okay,
We'll pick up the head.
Regenerative factor, Here, we'll just set him down real quick. We'll get back to him. But so with him, it was a lot of.
You can get a closer look at the head now.
Yep. So use a variety of different snot bricks together, stacked in just different combinations, and then hinge plates to get the ears of the cowl at the desired angle. So yeah, Deadpool was built pretty similarly, and the mask was done in a pretty similar technique.
Do you start with the heads with a build like this and then kind of build the rest of the body, or where do you start with?
Usually I'll start with the face or the head, and try to get the features at the desired proportion, and then I'll build out from there. That's kind of how I approach any build, is find what would be the key feature, and then figure out, okay, how can I get this to look the way I want it to look, and then I'll build out in proportion from that. So, yeah.
With the movie coming out, have you seen a much bigger reaction to these characters now when you display them at a show?
Yeah, actually, being that this is the first show I've had these guys at, yeah. I did actually, oh gosh, he's not going to want to stay up, so we're just going to set him down. But I did actually post videos of both of these guys on how I assembled them to a YouTube channel, which is actually found right over here. But yeah, got a pretty good reception from them. And so now I'm tempted to build more of the X-Men. Loved the show growing up, so yeah. We'll see how that goes.
Now, to go in a very different direction, you've got the Muppets Band next to that, and these guys just so colorful, so much fun here.
Yeah, that, being 100% honest, these guys were kind of an afterthought. I was working on Doom, trying to finish him up for the convention, and when I work, I often have to have just music or a TV show playing in the background, and so I was in the mood to watch the Muppet movie, and then I was like, and got an idea for Animal. So then I just kept finding myself veering off of what I was supposed to be working on, and thinking, okay, how would I do this guy? And so then I did Animal, and then I was like, great, now I've got to do the rest of the band, and so I did them one by one. But I started on them a week ago. Oh. And finished Zoot the day before the convention set up. So it was like, okay, it was honestly quite challenging with each of them. The bodies weren't too difficult, but trying to capture the shape of their heads, since they're so different, each one of them, took quite a bit of work.
You can't just create one model and then replicate that.
No. Each one of them has a completely different internal structure to get that desired shape to the head. And then from there, I had to build the bodies out, in proportion to that. Honestly, I think aside from their heads, the most challenging thing for each of them was the instruments, though. Trying to figure out guitars, and then that saxophone was the bane of my existence for a good 5 hours. But all in all, I was really pleased with how they turned out. I kind of wish I had one more day, then I could have knocked out the last member of the band. But he came along later, so I was like, okay, we can go with at least the core members. But
yeah.
But no, really pleased with them. And now I got to find more shelf space so I can keep them. But yeah. My wife actually did Dr. Teeth's eyes, because I wanted to have that eyelid semi-closed, and they do make a piece that does that. That was introduced in the Mixels sets, but I only had one. And I ran through everything I had, couldn't find it, so she ended up doing painting some customized for me. And I'm like, okay, cool.
I love it. She provides the finishing touches throughout the builds here.
She does. Because otherwise, it would drive me bonkers. I'm sure most people wouldn't notice it, but I would be up in the middle of the night for hours being like, why?
Now, you've got a few fantastic one-off characters as well. So you've got Perry the Platypus down here.
Yep. Yeah, I did him kind of in anticipation of the revival of the Phineas and Ferb show. Love the show. And sometimes I'll do the Doofenshmirtz voice for my kids. So I was like, okay, might as well build a platypus. I did also do a version of him where he doesn't have the hat, but I figured for the show, let's get the fedora going. He's actually really simple. It's just a lot of snot bricks stacked internally and then tiled on top of it with a hinge plate for the tail, and then just a few tiles for the eyes, and then the beak built out on it. The hat was honestly the hardest part, trying to get that fedora shape going, but I was pleased with it overall. So
yeah. No, I think it's really cool. It's great to see the variety you build in as well. The last couple you've got down here, then we've got Link and Harry Potter.
Yeah. So those two, honestly, it was just built on a whim. Harry, I really wanted to get something from the Quidditch sequence, because I feel that those were in my opinion, some of the best parts of the movies. Trying to get him to balance on that clear post was a bit of a challenge, so I had to stack those so we had a bit more support. And then getting that snitch coming off of the broomstick was a bit challenging, but overall I really liked it.
Yeah,
I really
sense of action with that.
Yeah, I wanted to get Draco along with it. I didn't have time, unfortunately, but we'll add him later. Maybe a few other Quidditch players, but yeah. So, and then as far as Link goes, that one I've been aiming to do. I've done a few other versions of Link in the past. Link to the Past, that's funny. But I wanted to get a version of the adult Link from Ocarina of Time, because that's my favorite video game. Hands down, that's the game I judge every other game against. So tried to capture not only his look, but also I was trying to go for the polygon look from the game. So that's why he's a little more blocky, a little more angular, and took a little bit of work trying to figure out the proportions again, but really pleased with it overall. So now I'm just wanting to add more to it, try and maybe do his horse next year or whatnot.
Yeah.
We'll see.
What types of posability do you have? Because I see he has the weapons there.
Yeah, so with him, he's got mixel joints all over, so you can really move him around quite a bit. And he does have a stud on the back, so if I wanted to put the shield there, I could. His head will turn. And then the fairy can get, posed, differently depending. But he's got probably more maneuverability than most of the other builds that I do. And surprisingly, he can actually stand on his own without needing any other structural support. So, yeah, quite a fan of him. So,
you've got so many great characters here. You mentioned your YouTube channel, so where can people find your work online if they want to see more?
The name of the channel is Learn Brick, where on a lot of these builds, I'll go through step-by-step how I do them. Some are a bit more of a montage, and then others I'll do brick by brick, and we're going to be coming out with instructions that can be purchased soon. For example, the Bluey characters, I've got instructions and a piece guide that's going to be coming out fairly quickly. Same with Wolverine and Deadpool. So given that I've just done the Muppets, I don't have videos for them yet, but they will be coming out fairly soon. Perry's got one, Link's got one, Harry Potter's got one, so
and
yeah.
You mentioned the Bluey characters there as well, so I skipped over those earlier, but we can talk about those now. Kind of take us through each of these and how these come together for you.
So these guys are they're fairly similar. Bluey, as I'm sure everybody knows, is probably one of the best shows on TV, and my daughter got me hooked on it, so I really wanted to, to do a build of her. There's a lot, let's see. Sorry. There's a lot of snot bricks connecting her together, but I had to do it in a way that I could flip it back and forth so I could tile all the surface of it. So she's a bit complex. It was a bit of a challenge to scale down for Bingo because she's a bit shorter. I had to change the way that I did some of the internals. And then Muffin being a bit stockier than the other two, I had to widen her. So they're all really similar in how they're put together, but I had to take some liberties to figure out how to make them work and keep them in proportion with one another again. Working on the parents, but have to hunt down more of this Blue because the dad's quite a bit bigger. But yeah, they're in the works. So
yeah. I'd love to see the uptick in Bluey Lego builds at shows. There's like a big Bluey house model here at the show as well. That's amazing.
Incredible. That, I was planning on doing something, but that one was so well done. I don't know if I could hold a candle to that. But definitely want to do more Bluey in the future. It's a phenomenal show, and there's so many like fun characters from it that I think that there's just endless possibilities with that. So, yeah, looking forward to doing more.
Awesome work here on all your builds. Thank you so much for taking us through each of these and explaining some of your techniques. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's always fun to talk with you guys. So.